Space!
Once upon a time in Sunrise Land, there was a Japanese man named Hiro Mashima, and one day he decided that he was gonna draw mangoes for a living. One of those mangoes was a series called Rave Master. I didn't read Rave Master. I did hear some people say it was good though. Some people didn't seem to like it too much. But I think the major consensus was that it was at least better than Mashinima's work that I did read. Fairy Tail. Reading Fairy Tail is like riding a really big roller coaster. You start off gradually building potential. You know, this might be kind of fun, we're definitely going places. Then the ride gets faster, and bumpier, and you start to think, oh man, I don't know about this, that one guy behind me already jumped off a while ago, is it too late to go back? Then you reach the highest point of the ride before you ultimately
plummet downward at maximum velocity. No going fucking back. There is no escaping the fate you sealed yourself to by getting on this ride. It is all downhill from here with no end in sight.
Then it's finally over, and no matter how much you try to convince yourself that the experience wasn't all that bad, you still can't escape the uncontrollable urge to vomit. There's only so many ways to say Fairy Tail is bad, and no drawn-out roller coaster analogy is going to offer any original critique of the series that hasn't been said 1,000 times before. You'd think a reputation as horrific as Fairy Tail's would be enough to kill any mangaka's entire career. I mean, who's going to trust another piece of work made by this guy? Well, Mr. Hiro Mashima, the unstoppable madman, is here to defy those expectations. He decided that his legacy would not end with the whole world looking down on him with hatred. He could have taken the millions he made before he was declared a manga pariah and run away, never to be heard from again. But no. He did the unthinkable, and made another manga. A little sci-fi adventure story known as Eden Zero. And folks, I'm here today to tell you with absolute unbiased honesty that Eden Zero does not suck.
You did it! It's not fucking terrible!
I always knew you could do it, Mashima!
6.5 out of 10! Mashima!
Let's flash back to 3 years ago in 2018. Holy shit, it's been 3 years already. One day, for no particular reason, I decided to check out the very first chapter of Hiro Mashima's newest serialized manga, Eden Zero. Now, you might wonder why any sane consumer of Japanese media like myself would even dare to go near a series made by the most infamous author in the industry. It had only been a year since Fairy Tail came to its disappointing climax, and, needless to say, that climax had left a bad taste in my mouth that I just can't forgive. So potentially putting myself through that pain again was not something I was looking forward to. I believe there exist two reasons why I and multiple other readers chose to give Eden Zero a chance when it debuted. The first reason is obvious, and that is that, goddammit, Hiro Mashima's women do things to me and I was desperate for stuff to add to my lascivious images folder. And the second, more dignified reason is that sometimes the human curiosity leads us down paths that we rationally should never decide to tread upon. It's like watching a car crash into a brick wall and then you see another car speeding towards that wall right behind it. You know you should look away, but you just can't resist watching the horror about to unfold. So I assume everyone tuning into these early chapters of Eden Zero were just morbidly curious about whether or not Mashima would fuck things up again and crash into the same wall he crashed Fairy Tail into. Well, 3 years have passed, and after reading 140 chapters of Eden Zero on a weekly basis, I am happy to report that the car has not crashed. It's got a few dents and fender benders, I guess, but it's still pretty okay. I mean it with complete sincerity when I say that Eden Zero has been one of the most enjoyably comfy experiences I've encountered with the shonen manga in the past few years. Maybe it's just because I've grown totally numb to the retarded shonen tropes everyone hates so much. Or maybe I truly do have a tongue with a taste for shit. But I like this manga. It's nice. It makes me feel good. It makes my dick hard. As of this recording, Eden Zero has finally obtained the obligatory anime adaptation most of us expected it to get. And with this adaptation will most likely come a whole new batch of anime-onlys wondering if they should give the series a shot. That's why I've gone to the trouble of making this video, to detail all the highs and lows of Eden Zero and to answer the question of whether it's something you may or may not be interested in, and also to give a sufficient answer as to why I think it's superior to Mashima's previous work. We're gonna have a little spoiler-free discussion first, then we'll get into the more interesting spoilery territory later. So just skip this part if you value your status as not spoiled. Watch at your own discretion. That's a long enough prelude. Let's get this shit going. This is no longer your average Mashi manga. This time, we're going to space. You have not reached the pinnacle of the action-adventure genre until you have ventured into space. It's a known fact.
Eventually, all things must go to space.
Eden Zero is a simple tale of space adventure. A crew of unlikely explorers traversing a sprawling open sea of stars, going from planet to planet trying to locate an ancient mythical space mommy known as Mother, who is said to grant any wish to whoever can find her, and our crew is aiming to be the first ones to ever do so. The first thought that comes to anyone's mind upon hearing this is this literally One Piece in space? Yes. Look, the concept of going on an epic journey across foreign lands with the goal to find some priceless treasure at the end of it is not something native to One Piece, or any other adventure story for that matter. It's just the law of the universe that every shonen protagonist has got to have some seemingly impossible goal to accomplish, and the goal of our main guy Shiki Granbell is to find Mother. And to make some friends along the way, of course, can't forget that essential fact. The first of many friends he meets is his titty streamer love interest, Rebecca Bluegarden, Mashima's most realistic character to date, as her main reason for following Shiki on his quest across space and time is so she can attract more viewers and subscribers to her shitty YouTube channel where she dresses like a prostitute. Yes, that is an actual plot point. Becky and Steak and Shake travel through the cosmos on board Shiki's spaceship, the Eden Zero, a ship he inherited from his deceased robot mentor, Skull Knight, Momonga, that one guy from Space Dandy, Ziggy Stardust. They gather several more crew members, including the mechanic from 50 Years in the Past, Weiss, or Vice if you are Kraut, the socially awkward sword lady Hamura, and then an entire harem of fetish fuel androids built by Ziggy to make sure Shiki doesn't fucking destroy the ship.
I'm retarded?
What are you, fucking stupid?
Nah, that's an exaggeration. You would not believe me, but Shiki actually has his fair share of 200 plus IQ moments here and there. When he's battling an enemy inside a giant mech, he utilizes his gravity ether gear to indirectly attack her impenetrable armor by turning her own heat-seeking missiles against her. The lad ain't no combat genius, but when he has to use his brain to outsmart his opponents, he'll come up with schemes that feel like a natural extension of his powers. And it's refreshing because it's rare to see Mashima throw his protagonist a victory that feels earned. Usually it's just an out-of-nowhere ass-pull. The cast of characters expands as the story progresses, and even if it starts to feel like it's becoming impossible to distribute an equal amount of screen time for everyone, the main cast we see on board the ship are always a genuine treat to spend time with. Some of the best chapters are just the ones where the crew are dicking around on the ship, playing off of each other's personalities for tons of comedic bits. Every character seems to be a foil for another, and putting them all in a confined area like a spaceship creates an excellent ground for developing the chemistry all of them share. Of course, the entire reason we have this wide array of characters united in their quest across space is because of Shiki's insatiable lust for friendship. Now this is where a lot of people are gonna get filtered. It is literally stated that one of Shiki's central goals is to make as many friends as possible. Every single character he meets he will immediately demand to be his friend.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me.
Honestly, after repeated overexposure to the shonen genre and its recurring themes of camaraderie, my brain has developed a callus for the word friendship. It no longer holds any meaning or affects me. It's just noise that doesn't register. However, I know not everyone shares that mindset. Having to hear Shiki preach his philosophy of friendship for the 69th chapter in a row will probably be enough to drive some readers to suicide. But there is a bit of an upside. Shiki's friendship autism is so powerful that at this point it's pretty much played for laughs most of the time. Hiro Mashima has certainly become a tad self-aware of his readers' complaints, so every now and then he'll have the other characters call out Shiki for being an absolute fucking weirdo when it comes to wanting the entire universe to engage in his friendship orgy. Speaking of orgies, there's another point of contention within Mashima's work I feel people might want to see addressed. There's a lot of ass and titties. Fan service that has gone beyond any realm of subtlety to the point where it is now just commonly accepted that no female character is allowed to go a single page without the essential pantsu or tit slip. Now, because I have a dick, I really can't raise a genuine complaint here. but I think anyone would agree that it can be difficult to absorb any important expository dialogue being offered on screen, or take in the beautiful background art, or concentrate on the fluid motion contained within the battle sequences when all you've got in your face is Rebecca's delicious ass. Perversions aside, I'd like to bring up my theory that Eden Zero is just Hiro Mashima's blatant excuse to draw as many of his depraved fetishes as possible. Chapter after chapter filled with more foot fetish propaganda than a Quentin Tarantino film. More than enough bondage and BDSM scenes to fill the tag on N-hentai. And then just an uncomfortable number of tentacle rape. Tentacle rape up the ass. Literally. I will commend Mashima's horniness for one thing though, and that's that he actually managed to provide a plot-related reason to excuse the excessive number of bath scenes. That reason being the fact that the ship's spa magically enhances the ether within one's body that they can utilize in combat. So every time you see Rebecca, Hamura, or any of the 4 shining stars naked, lathered in body soap, they're getting stronger. Anyhow, just like with all the friendship talk, my brain no longer really registers the massive number of sexually suggestive panels or illustrations. After the first dozen chapters of partial nudity, it really doesn't faze you anymore. But still, if you are truly not okay with page after page of mammary and posterior shots, then this is definitely not the kind of manga for you. Also, you might be gay. That's okay though. There's sexy dudes here as well. Mashima might not be one of the greats when it comes to writing a compelling story, but one thing you can't deny is that the man knows how to have fun with what he does. That's the vibe I get whenever I look at the multitude of alien worlds and locations he's created for this manga. Eden Zero has the opportunity to build and develop its world in one of the most conceptually unlimited environments in existence. Space! There is no greater sandbox of potential imagination and creativity than the endless reaches of the cosmos. And Mashima clearly loves taking advantage of this creative potential as evidenced by the variety of planets and settings he places the characters in. Now, I'm not saying these environments are on par with something like Skypiea, but I'd say they're more like a Water 7 or Fishman Island. You know, they get pretty creative here and there. The main idea I want to get across here is that Mashima is absolutely having fun with how he tells his story and has a clear passion for his art. And I suppose that as long as you're not a complete stick in the mud, it's very easy to get absorbed in the fun of it all as well. Anyhow, Y is his best boy and Herman is undisputed best girl. And I hope they make many beautiful cyborg babies. Also, Pino. Pino is the best thing to ever come out of the creation of manga as an art form. Imagine a world where we could use technology to mass produce Pinos. I'd buy like 57. Hiro Mashima once stated that he made it a policy to not include dark themes in Fairy Tail, especially character death and disturbing content. Many fans did not like this habit. The story lacked stakes and consequences which made all the conflict feel pointless and all the drama feel contrived. Mashima's defense was that his goal was not to tell a story that made readers feel sad or upset, but one that they could simply enjoy for all the fun and lighthearted excitement that it had to offer. That Hiro Mashima is dead. We have now entered the era of Edgelord Mashima, and by God is it hilarious. Aw, look at this little girl and her adorable little robot friend. Isn't it just the cutest thing?
Boom! That robot just got blown the fuck up!
Innocent gamers are getting impaled on spikes and dying. Cute lollibots are getting mutilated by sadistic scientists. Dozens of YouTubers get kidnapped and sold as sex slaves to a fat frog rapist. Shiki gets shot in the face and fucking dies? He gets revived by time travel shenanigans though, don't worry. It's just comical how Mashima decided to go from that one guy who rarely even dipped his toe in controversial or disturbing content, to the, fuck you, here's a little boy getting his arms cut off with a chainsaw while his traumatized Emoto watches. Mashima established in one of his author's notes that he heard from readers for years that the villains and antagonists he created were, well, not very good at being villains. They either had zero intimidating qualities, or they all suffered from tragic backstory disorder and were too easy to sympathize with. Mashima's goal with his current villains, and this is out of his own mouth, is to create the most despicable, scum-of-the-earth, irredeemable bastards possible. And I'd say he's doing a good job, even if it all feels like a massive overcorrection that leaves us with a huge cast of laughably over-the-top bad guys. However, I'd be a liar if I said it wasn't cathartic to see these horrendously hateable villains get blown the fuck out. It's as satisfying as a good nut. And that's not to say all the villains are notable just for being complete assholes. Draken Joe, the main enemy of the first major arc of the story, is a bit more refined than many of the one-off villains we encounter first. He's a professional loan shark that controls the Sakura cosmos with an iron fist. And Mashima actually does a pretty decent job at illustrating just how daunting of an opponent this character is for our heroes. When the crew initially tries to invade Draken Joe's city-sized spaceship, the Belial Gore, they all get the fucking shit beat out of them. Shiki is murdered in cold blood, Weiss gets sniped and then has his right arm cut off, the ship's androids Happy and Pino get sold to a junkyard, Hamura gets turned into a living cum dumpster for rich old men. It's a complete disaster, and it serves as a cruel reminder from both Draken and Mashima himself that the stakes have indeed been raised. They end up reversing all the bad shit when Rebecca activates her ether gear and allows her to travel back in time and warn everyone. But even with knowledge on all of Draken's forces, the battle where they win and come out on top is still a massive struggle. Having the ability to leap back in time might seem like a major cop-out, but Mashima remedies this by adding consequences for using the power. Not only does this leap into what's essentially an alternate universe create various discrepancies like the character Captain Connor going from an ally to a major antagonist, but we also later find out that Rebecca's body takes a physical strain should she overuse this ability. It's still a bit of a broken power, but there are 100% downsides and consequences attached to it. Also, if you choose to believe the theory that every time Rebecca reverses time she's actually jumping into an alternate timeline, that means there exists an original universe where Shiki is still dead, Weiss is a one-armed cripple, and Hamura is getting repeatedly raped by ugly bastards every day. Pretty fucking dark implications, I have to say.
Yo, what do I see? The cock ship, .xxx, and the cum ship?
One of my favorite devices Mashima introduces are the chronophages, ethereal Yu-Gi-Oh looking space monsters powerful enough to consume time itself. Whenever they attack a planet, they have the ability to eat a certain number of years off that planet's timeline, meaning that time will regress 50, 100, even potentially thousands of years backwards. Weiss happens to come from one of these planets that had its time eaten, and now he's forced to coexist in a universe alongside a wrinkly 69-year-old version of himself from the present. This idea of decades worth of history being destroyed instantly initially sounds like a very bad thing, but the story brings up ways in which this concept native to science fiction can actually be beneficial. For example, the crew at one point infiltrates the planet Gilst, where virtually all crime, including murder and human trafficking, is allowed to happen with zero legal interference. At the end of the arc, a chronophage arrives and eats 1,200 years of the planet's time, and this reverses it to a state of natural beauty and purity, devoid of degeneracy and human interference entirely. So many implications and questions surrounding humanity's place in the universe arise from just this one turn of events, and it's an excellent showcase of the more mature side of the manga that occasionally rears its head during all the fast-paced action and usual shonen mayhem. Time, as a concept, holds much more prevalence in Eden Zero than just what we see with chronophages and Rebecca's quantum time leap powers. The very first volume ends with a scene taking place 20,000 years into the future with a group of explorers discovering a pair of bodies belonging to a man and a woman, along with Rebecca's B-cube she uses to make videos with the name of the ship written on it.
What the fuck does that mean?
We get to see Rebecca actually write the name 130 chapters later, and from here on, there's thousands of possible speculations and theories to make about what this massive piece of foreshadowing could mean. If it means anything, that is. In this story, time doesn't hold much meaning. It can leap forward, backward, fucking sideways sometimes. It's another recurring instance of Mashima doing his own thing and having as much fun experimenting with ideas and plot devices as possible. It's why, no matter how much you try, it's hard to truly hate this man. There's a lot of evident passion backing his projects, and to prove it, I'd like to detail for you just how much work Mashima is able to complete on a regular basis. Mashima's work ethic has been infamous amongst his readers for years, and that's due to how freakishly insane it is. So insane that it has spiked the level of respect I have for him higher than I thought possible. This man has worked on 3 long-running series in the past 20 years, all of which attained moderate to huge success. He has stuck to a weekly release schedule with almost 0 breaks unless he's literally forced by the publishers to take a week off. He reportedly dumps hours into video games every week, yet still meets every last one of his deadlines. In the past, he's worked on multiple weekly manga at the same time and consistently released new chapters for both each week. Just recently, he was drawing 2 manga at once while storyboarding a 3rd one. He frequently posts sketches and art he made in his spare time on social media. He interacts with fans more often than any other mangaka I can think of. His assistants have stated on numerous occasions that he provides one of the most comfortable and supportive work environments they've ever seen. One of them even drew a comic just to talk about how awesome it is to work with him. He pumps out his chapters so fast that sometimes he'll release 2 of them on the same day. He manages to get a healthy 8 hours of sleep, which is something you're not supposed to do as a manga artist because of how demanding the job is. And despite the fact that the entirety of the anime and manga community considers him the biggest hack in the industry, whose career is based on producing insipid bottom-of-the-barrel trash, he keeps on drawing. He keeps on drawing because it's what he genuinely loves to do. He gives not a single solitary fuck about how hated he is, and instead continues to produce work for the people that do enjoy it. And no matter how much he makes people seethe, no matter how much people wish for him to fail and be rejected like the hack fraud he is, it ain't gonna change the fact that he is here to stay and piss off shonen fans for all of time. What a fucking madman. No, what a fucking hero. Eden Zero's pretty alright, 6 out of 10. Pino is best mascot.
There's a starman waiting in the sky.